Welcome to another Social Networking Watch CEO interview. Today we're joined by Subrah Iyar, who has a fantastic past. He was the former founder and CEO of WebEx, and we're honored to have him on a call today. So welcome to the interview, Subrah.
Thank you, Mark. Pleasure to be here.
Now, you're working on Moxtra. You've created an app called Moxtra. Could you tell us about that?
Yes, Moxtra was inspired by all the changes that's happened around mobility with all the new devices. My background included being one of the early employees at Newton's in Apple. Anyway, so it really was around the question of what is collaboration around these new form factors. Obviously, I've kept in touch with many of my ex-colleagues. So many of them approached me with some ideas, and ideas led to some engagement. Pretty soon, I was putting in some money, and guess what? I was back in developing a solution. So the application is about really centered upon the mobile user and about making things happen on the go. That's what Moxtra is about.
Where do you see the whole? I mean, what from your background kind of was most applicable to this experience, and where did you see the whole? Where were you frustrated?
Well, interesting enough, when I was at WebEx, right? We had a lot of thought. At least I put a lot of thought into what about the ad hoc meeting, right? I mean, we had the scheduled meeting like we did today. And then people say, yeah, but there was a watercolor meeting and this and that interaction, etc., etc. And it always intrigued us, and we came up with, one-click meeting and all that, and it never worked. What really clicked for me is understanding that what was missing is not, for the ad hoc meeting, is the person is on the move. And when they're on the move at the watercolor, they're not carrying their desktop. And they're carrying a mobile device. So the center point of why the ad hoc meeting could never be done by WebEx was because the form factor of the device was not suited for that. Whereas on the flip side, in a mobile device, you're not really targeting a long sit-down meeting for 1 hour or whatever, but you're on the go, and you're having these short 2-minute, 1-minute conversations and multiplexing many of them at the same time. And that is sort of just a click that happened. That this device was less about the device, was about supporting people on their collaborative lifestyle while they're on the go. And that's why I say it's about making things happen on the go.
What kind of people? Is it more a business audience that you're shooting for, or how would you define the market?
Yeah, I think it's a little more not business as much as a little more serious when you want to make something happen, right? As against relating and just sort of sharing. So let me give you examples of consumer projects that it's very useful for. Simple home remodeling. You have you're interacting with, let's say, your wife. Let's say you have architect. You have third party furniture you want to purchase, and there's an ongoing conversation with content going back and forth, and it lends itself perfectly for something like Moxtra because you're actually multiplexing. So that's like a home project. There are millions of home projects, right? I mean, there's a party 3 weeks from now. You're going to invite many people, and you're having these conversations. Just you're sending people directions. People. Let's say it's a potluck. People are bringing different food, and so on and so forth. So projects can be very casual projects. Travel is a great point, right? When you're traveling with people, your spouse or otherwise, and you plan, I mean, like your hiking trip that you just talked about, Mark. I mean, how do you coordinate that with so many people? And today, people tend to do it with email and attachments. But on the mobile device, I think we replaced that email with messaging with a very strong content backend that keeps it all together.
So let's say you were sitting down with Mark Zuckerberg. He took an interest in Moxtra, and in one sentence, you bumped into him at an event. How would you describe Moxtra to the CEO of Facebook?
Well, very clearly that relative to Facebook and the messaging etc. that happens around Facebook tends to be around again relating, casual conversation, keeping everybody updated etc. We tend to be much more focused around specific, as I say, projects or something that you want to get done, and it's more private. So it is very contextual, and it is not open, that anybody and everybody can see, right? So the design point is very different. It is social to the extent that, again, as you said, if you're organizing a trip for lots of people, and how do you sort of, so it's sort of the group messaging element combined with a very strong content collaboration capabilities built in. And so that's sort of our design point, and that's different. Facebook does have things like Facebook groups, etc. Again, but our core focus is just this, which is, and it lends itself, as I said, for the ordinary consumer, but to the biggest business. Because I talked about the consumer, but yes, it's absolutely useful in business when you have field engineering, field sales, field support, all of these people who are sort of on the go and want to get things done on the go.
So it's really about content involved in the getting stuff done.
Yeah.
So Evernote springs to mind, of course.
Yes.
Is that who else would you describe as direct competitors?
Well, okay. So Evernote, the promise of the Evernote shared notebook, right? I would say is probably the closest to what we do. But Evernote, as if you look at their theme, which is about remember everything, it is much more personally centered. And oh, by the way, they have the shared notebook and the business notebook, and I've tried that, and I don't think that as I said, our design point is centered right on the shared notebook. Now, with the caveat that we don't call it a notebook, for the simple reason when it's group collection and collaboration, it is not your notes that are important, but it's collecting information or content from different people. So let's say, for example, we were organizing a trip together. So you may contribute some, ideas, or here's a hotel we should stay, and I can contribute, here's the airplanes, or these are locations we should go after, so on and so forth. So it's really much more centered. Yeah, sure, you could write notes in our case, but that's sort of like, I would say, a small percentage of the situation. Most of the time, we're collecting stuff. It's like the person is the group scrapbook that comes together around that. So you're right. The shared notebook that Evernote talks about I would say the closest competitor from a conceptual perspective. But when you get into it, you'll realize you're completely different because your architect is right around that concept.
It's less about sharing. There's some muddiness around the competitor apps, I guess, because they're not completely focused on sharing. I think it's more what you bring to the table that's the difference. It's not about you; it's about you plus the other folks
exactly.
that you're trying to share.
Yeah, see, that's why obviously having done WebEx and understanding, regardless of what people say they do, right? I have sort of a taste for the architecture of the technology underneath. And one of the sort of insights that, once you're in the game, you understand is not all engines engines cannot do everything as much as people wish they do everything. You build something optimized for a certain use case, and it'll span quite a bit. But guess what? It doesn't span across the board. And when you try to do both, you'll actually find that it'll do neither very well. So, to your point, that was the insight. I mean, otherwise I wouldn't be doing it. I don't need to do it. It was sort of, as I said, I was inspired by some of the my co-founder Stanley Wang. He'd worked on this, and I saw the different, the result of a lot of the thinking we had done earlier. And yes, that was the understand. That was the aha moment for us, saying that people are talking about it, but it requires a different architecture.
And how will you monetize? Will it be driven by advertising or memberships or both?
Well, actually, one of the things. So, first thing was to get the form factor right for the end user, which we sort of worked on. And now, again, given my background, we had the luxury of doing it without the pressure of VCs and everybody sort of breathing down your back asking what's the business plan. So, we took a relaxed attitude of saying, let's focus on the end user, let's get the form factor right. And that's what we did. And that I feel pretty good about our solution now. And now in the process, oh, by the way, naturally I thought, customers would surface, and they have. And so we've had a lot of interest from business. And so we're adding the business security capabilities, etc. And so that monetization seems straightforward. More interestingly, what we find is there's a lot of interest in other solutions wanting to add Moxtra as a mobile front end. So if you think about it, that today we say when you get Moxtra off the shelf, you get, chat, which is just like messaging, and you're able to collect information from different repositories, whether it's Box, Dropbox, etc., all the consumer repositories. That's for binding in. You bind them together, and then you have a meeting over them, or you create notes. I mean, that's it, the fundamental four elements that make up Moxtra. But if you take an enterprise software company, for example, which has content, I'm talking about existing ERP solutions, etc., etc. They are looking for mobile extensions of their solution. So rather than get content from any like Dropbox or Google, some of the consumer repositories, they would like to offer the Moxtra-like solution tied to their repository. And so the whole partnership angle is a huge opportunity we're seeing. And so we are engaged in some and just proving that out today. And that I think it feels like much bigger than even the direct, because these companies already are in with customers, and they already have users. And right now their mobile, people asking what is their mobile strategy, and what they do is take their existing solution and offer sort of a mobile view of it. Whereas what we can do is to tie it and offer a very meaningful, collaborative experience on top of content that comes from these kind of applications.
And how does the conferencing part, the live conferencing, live conversations part work? Because that's a real standout.
Yeah, I mean that's as I said, many of you, as I said, people who've been texting, they know first they've been texting. Now they sort of with Snapchat and others, they're saying, "Oh, here's a photograph," or here's some content. We see this as a natural progression of that behavior, right? Because sometimes, I'm talking to you, and again, let's say the context is your trip out, or we're sort of planning something together. Now there's a context based, and we're sharing content with each other, and now it's kept in what we call a binder. So whenever you come back to the conversation, all the binder with all the content is there, and then we can annotate on top of it. But sometimes in these conversations, especially when it's more than just you and me, and let's say 3 or 4, we say, "Hey, let's make a decision right now. Are you all there? Let's click a button, get connected, and let me walk you through what I was thinking." And so we have the 2 minute, or the 3 minute meeting, so to speak. So the form factor is really built around that. It's not, I mean, yes, the technology allows a full-fledged meeting experience, but it's really about it to be a seamless extension of what starts out as simple messaging, a simple chat, which leads to getting content, and then once in a while clicking in one button and getting into a meeting, and again to make quick decisions around your project.
So let's fast forward 1 year.
Yeah.
What are your goals for 1 year's time with Moxtra? Where are we at in 1 year's time?
Well, I mean, we are very focused on, again, improving the consumer user experience. And, I feel overall the form factor is good, but we continue to tweak it. I think that, we're seeing, already we're seeing very good results, but much more, even more viral sort of interaction. So, again, a lot of, let's say, real estate professionals, they start using it with their customers more, etc., etc. So those kind of engagements on the consumer side. On the business side, as I said, we're working on a few pilots. We feel there will be success, completion of those pilots in the next 3 to 4 months. But most interesting is these partnerships, wherein Moxtra gets private branded, labeled, and embedded with a few key solutions, and feels like a seamless part of those solutions. So I give you an example. So let's say you have chemical lab application wherein you build molecules together, etc., with a group of scientists. You can imagine right from within there you can launch Moxtra. So as a result of which the lab scientist is looking at these formulae on the go. They're making changes. They never leave the application, but they have the full richness of Moxtra available to them on the go. So that is actually the most exciting part of what we hope to see in the next year.
Okay. Subrah Iyar, you are the CEO and founder of Moxtra. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mark. Real pleasure.